let's jump into our program today. And as you can see on the screen, we are going to be meeting the leadership team with the RAZ Mobility, who has developed a unique phone that is targeted to help people with dementia and other intellectual abilities. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and welcome the RAZ Mobility team. Howdy. Oh, unmute here. There you go. Whoops. Wait, why am I? Make sure you click the unmute button.
Yeah.
Can you hear
there
us?
There you go. Okay, excellent. All right, welcome to the RAZ Mobility team. Well, first off, let's get to know you guys. What are your names and your roles, and a little bit of your background, and then let's dive into what led you to create this innovative phone.
Well, my name's Robert Felgar. I'm the CEO of the company, and we started this business back in 2017. Just a little bit of background about myself. Before founding RAZ Mobility, I was a telecommunications lawyer for 20 years. So that's really where I come from. Don't hold it against me, but I come from the legal field, and then transitioned into founding or starting this business called RAZ Mobility.
Hi, I'm Nermin Selimik. I'm Robert's partner and the COO of RAZ Mobility. My background is telecommunications as well, but not legal, so we have a good balance here. I was a telecommunications executive for almost 2 decades, leading sales and marketing teams, product development teams, and lines of business for consumers as well as for businesses.
Great.
So at some time, I decided it's time to make a change, and let's create and develop some exciting products.
Okay. Well, okay. So great. We know you guys, know your background. We're not going to hold the legal thing against you there, Robert. But so now, was RAZ Mobility founded to create this phone, or is it something that you sort of accidentally stumbled into?
Yes, the latter, really. We started RAZ Mobility to offer mobile assistive technology for people with disabilities. So the idea was to serve people with virtually any disability, whether it's a vision disability, people who are blind, people with serious mobility disabilities, people who are deaf or hard of hearing. And we came upon this phone maybe a little over a year ago from Australia, that was sold in Australia at the time, that was focused on people with dementia. And so that gave us this idea to develop one and provide it to the US market. And that's where the idea germinated. And it took us several months to develop the software. And then we launched it towards the beginning of 2020. So it's been around for almost a year now.
Great. Now, was there something personal that led you to focus on people with disabilities with your company? We need more entrepreneurs that are trying to create products and services for this market. I'm just kind of curious what led you in that direction.
Well, I did have a grandmother who passed who was blind, but she wasn't really the inspiration for the company. When I was a lawyer, I was general counsel of another telecom company, and I had this inspiration to start a service at that company for people who are blind. So basically focusing on providing accessible phones to people who are blind. And that's sort of what got me into this line of business. And when I formed that line of business, we won some awards from the blind community, American Foundation for the Blind and others. And that kind of inspired me at that point to go off on my own and focus on other disabilities more broadly as well.
Great. Excellent. So I know everybody, I know I am, and everybody in the audience is curious to sort of dive into this product. And you'd mentioned that you were familiar with a product in Australia. Was one of the sources of inspiration. Is this a product that you guys created, or did you is this a licensing agreement from the company in Australia?
That's a good question. No, this is entirely our product. So we got the idea by seeing another product, kind of a concept, but we thought that we could do something different and, in our opinion, better, and make it all of our own. So that's what we've done.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to let you guys kind of drive the bus here and share with us the features and benefits of the phone. And then I'm going to say to the audience, this is a great opportunity to, you guys are okay answering questions throughout?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So what I'm going to do, just so that your screen is maximized, I'm just going to put myself behind the curtain here, so you're just hearing my voice. And then if question comes in, when you pause, I'll jump in.
Okay, perfect. So I'll start off with an introduction on the phone itself. The general philosophy of the phone is to make it as simple as possible, basically the simplest phone ever devised, so that someone with Alzheimer's, dementia can use the phone. So at some point in the progression of the disease, they are not the victim, so to speak. The patient is not going to be able to use a standard telephone. They're not going to be able to use an iPhone or an Android phone. And that's where our phone sort of takes over. It simplifies the entire process, the entire experience for the user, so that they can continue to use a cell phone past the time that they would normally stop doing so. So that's the objective. And what I'd like to show you first is a picture of the phone, just so you have an idea of what it looks like. Hopefully you could see it right there. And you can see it basically looks like a normal smartphone, which it is. The hardware is nothing special. It's really the software where all the magic occurs. And you can see that it's essentially one screen. So that's all that the user sees, is that one screen for the phone. And you can see each contact has a circle, and each circle has a picture on it.
Okay, now I'll start sharing now our screen, because it will be much easier to show you what Robert is describing.
And one good thing about what you're sharing there, that is the RAZ Mobility webpage, correct?
That's
That
right.
is correct.
Okay, so I'm going to drop this into chat just in case folks, want to sort of follow along on their own computer.
Great, great. So you can see the phone right there on the screen, and you can see that there are 6 contacts. So that's the primary and only screen of the phone. You can actually have up to 24 contacts. So the default is 6 with the one screen. You can't scroll. You can't move to any other page. You can't access settings, nothing at all. All the user will see are those up to 6 contacts and that one screen. As I mentioned, there's an option which we'll discuss and show later to add contacts, to add more than 6 contacts, in which case the user will have to scroll to see those additional contacts. Also, you can see on your screen that if there's no picture, you can put what we call an avatar. So you could see Ann Peters on your screen. She's one of the circles. And we don't have a picture for Ann Peters. So you can put what we call an avatar in place of the picture. Now, on top of the up to 6 pictures, you can see there's an emergency 911 button. So let's say there was an emergency, they would press and hold that button, and then there would be an additional screen that popped up, which would give the user the ability to cancel and go back, or to proceed to 911. It's important and significant that whenever you make a call, whether it's to a person or to emergency 911, you have to press and hold for about 1.5 seconds that contact or emergency 911. And that's designed to prevent the users from accidentally calling those numbers. So if someone's simply touching the screen and taking their finger off quickly, like a tap, it's not going to execute any of the calling. The person has to keep their finger on the picture or emergency 911 for about 1.5 seconds. Okay, so it's really as simple as that. And we've gone even further to try to simplify the entire experience. If the user, for example, presses the volume button, and they might press it all the way down so they would no longer be able to hear, and they might get confused. Why can't I hear? The phone's not working. What we've done to prevent that is we've disabled the volume button. So the volume is always on maximum so that the user could hear as well as possible, but not accidentally lower the volume and not realize what they've done. Similarly, normally, if you tap or press the power button, the screen will lock, right? And then you have to somehow unlock the screen, usually by flipping upwards. So what we've done to prevent that is we've disabled that capability within the power button. So the screen never locks. It is always, always on 24/7. As long as there's battery power in the phone, the user will see the contacts on the screen and will be able to make a call. So they press the power button accidentally, that's fine. It'll flicker and come right back on. Similarly, if there's navigation buttons normally at the bottom of the screen, right, on an Android phone, you'll see like a home button, a back button, and a recent apps button. And what we've done is we have essentially disabled those buttons. So if the person flicks upwards, they will see them, but they will quickly disappear. And if they press them, they won't do anything. So if they press the home button, for example, it's not going anywhere. It's just going to stay exactly where it's supposed to, which is at the main screen. And then at the top of the phone, normally if you pull down with your finger, you'll see like a quick settings menu. And what we've done there is if a user does that, those quick settings menus will appear, but very, very quickly disappear. So the user can't access the settings. So it's important to understand that the user can't do anything at all with the phone other than essentially make calls. They can't text message, they can't take pictures, they can't access any apps. It's simply there to make calls. And in that sense, we think that the phone really is the simplest phone available for people with dementia and for people who get confused quite easily.
Hey, guys, this is great, and questions are coming in fast and furious. But before you go on, one question that I had is, how many users do you currently have? Or I know that might be proprietary, but this is not something like, you've got a pretty large user group, and that is one of the reasons that you've arrived at some of these features, or I should say, I think the benefit of this phone is the lack of features.
That's right. And we are selling several hundreds of these phones a month, and it's increasing every month. So virtually every month we're seeing an increase. And as word spreads, the demand is increasing. And we're finding actually that not only are people buying the phone for their parents or spouses who have Alzheimer's dementia, it's also being purchased by other people for people with disabilities. For example, we've had people reach out to us whose spouses have brain injury or Down syndrome, a child with Down syndrome, or someone with a serious mobility disability who really needs something very, very simple and with large icons that they can tap and simplify the process. So we're finding that although we had dementia in mind, the use case is growing to some degree beyond that to anyone with an intellectual disability or a very serious mobility disability.
Okay, great. We can keep on going on, but would you like me to share some of the questions that are coming in? That might sort of drive the conversation.
That'd be
Is that
great.
okay?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So I'll start at the top of the list. Ashley Patterson asks, what is the battery life like? Since it's always on, sometimes it's a bit of a challenge to get resident phones on a charger.
Okay, so that's a very good question. The battery on these phones is very large. We intentionally selected hardware with large batteries, and they can easily get through the day. Okay, at the end of the day, in fact, they can last more than 24 hours typically. But by the end of the day and at night when the person goes to bed, just like you and I, the phone should typically be charged. We have introduced an option to facilitate that because of comments about difficulty of charging, and we've introduced wireless charging. So all the person has to do is take their phone and put it down on a pad. Actually, we can show it.
Yep.
Is it?
Yeah, we are still on camera.
Okay, you can see the pad right there.
And I'll show it here on the website as well. So it would just lay flat on the charging pad. It's like a hockey puck. Okay. So that's how it works. And also one option for charging that's quite popular is actually a very long charging cord that's a coiled cable, correct? So there is some similarity to a traditional home phone cable, and that's also very popular among many users. And it's also, it's very long, 6 feet. So between the two options, it's always about the user's preference, whatever suits them better.
Great. Okay. Let's see. We have a couple of questions asking about, can you remove the 911 prompt for those with Alzheimer's disease? And somebody else said, so Nellie asked that, and then Ashley asked, is there an option to get rid of the 911? I feel like residents could accidentally press it.
Well, that's a very good question. So that was our most popular request right from the beginning, was to take away 911. We weren't willing to entirely remove 911 because obviously seniors also have real emergencies, and we didn't feel like, actually there's also liability concern. We didn't want someone to have a real emergency and not be able to contact any sort of emergency service. So what we did is we introduced a private emergency service in response to this demand. And instead of contacting 911, what this service does is contact this service called Noonlight. And Noonlight is aware that all of our customers have, or at least the large majority, have Alzheimer's, dementia, and they handle the calls a little differently. And what we're going to do soon, Nerman's going to present this when he gets into the portal that controls the phone. He's going to actually play some recordings of real live calls using that emergency service to demonstrate its benefit. So we'll show that specifically.
Okay, great. And Sister Glenna Smith asks, can a Merck person make calls as well as receive them?
Yes, you can make calls. You press the contact on the screen and it initiates the call.
And I think I've got I think I've got 5 questions from a variety of people on how much this costs, how the phone and its cost.
Okay, so the phone, there's 2 versions of the phone. One version works with AT&T and T-Mobile's network, and that costs $309. And then there is a second version of the phone that works with Verizon, and actually all additional networks as well, but we specifically designed it for users who wanted to connect with Verizon, and it costs $349. And in terms of service, the user doesn't need to get service from us. Actually, we don't offer service. We're not a wireless provider. So the phones are unlocked, so they can use whichever wireless provider is convenient for them. We do offer a free SIM card in the box with 3 months of free service from a wireless company called Mint Mobile, but it's optional. People can use that free service, or they can use Verizon, for example.
Okay, great. And then, okay, so, and that seems, the pricing for the hardware seems pretty in line with the cost of other smartphone devices. So this is, you know, with your monthly service and the cost of the phone, it seems in a lot alignment there.
That's right. And it's also important to emphasize that they get a lot of additional service along with the phone. You know, access to the portal. They can track the phone, for example, from the portal. And again,
Okay.
Norman will go over that. And all of that's free. So our service, our capabilities in the phone, our software is free. You pay the cost of the phone, and the rest of the functionality just comes with it.
Okay.
And any future updates are free as well to existing customers. So
Okay.
we are rolling out new features and options every 60 to 90 days, and
Okay.
all existing customers can get these updates as well.
And Sister Glenna asks, is there a contract? So the contract would be with your service provider, not necessarily with RAZ, because you're buying the phone and that does that. But then she asks, is there assistance available for purchase of the device or program? Have you teamed up with any, you know, organizations that are sort of creating assistance programs around this device?
So you can buy the phone either directly through us, through our website, or from the Alzheimer store. So alzstore.com.
Okay.
In terms of getting the phone from sort of government programs or nonprofits, we do actually have an arrangement with the state of Maryland. So the state of Maryland has what's called an equipment distribution program.
Mm-hmm.
And they offer the phone for free to people who have low income. Unfortunately, Virginia doesn't have a similar program. So for those in Virginia, unfortunately, there isn't that same level of support. But the Maryland program is a great program.
Great. And I know many states have those. So hopefully this, the fact that you've qualified under Maryland, my hope is that, you know, over the next period of time, you'll begin to pick up more states. So that's exciting.
Exactly. And I think you could probably get it fairly soon in Pennsylvania, and the list is growing.
Okay, good. Let's see. Okay. Sid asks, don't you need to shut down the phone at some point? I know that restarting a smartphone from time to time aids in it operating correctly.
Yeah, you really don't. You could keep it going for as long as, you know, forever, as far as we're concerned. There's no requirement to shut it down. Obviously, if you don't charge it, it'll shut down, but otherwise you could keep it on.
Okay. These are great questions, guys. And I think this makes your presentation easier because now you're getting what the audience wants. Okay. This is an interesting question, is what is the size and composition of your user testing group? Did user testing identify stage of dementia? Was the testing conducted independently or by your staff?
Okay, so we did do some testing before we introduced the phone to the market. We tested with Jewish Council for the Aging in Montgomery County. And it was interesting. There were people, it was a small group. There were people for whom couldn't even use this phone, who are more advanced. For example, they couldn't speak particularly well and they would randomly press the pictures. And but there were others who did extremely well with it. So it really depends on the progression of the disease. Obviously, if the person is too advanced, they can't even use the RAZ Memory Cell Phone. If they're towards the beginning, they still want to hang on to their iPhone or Samsung or whatever they have. But there's definitely a very nice sweet spot where they're sort of they're in stage 2 of Alzheimer's dementia, and they have difficulty using their smartphone, but they still really want to. They want to stay connected, and they're capable of doing so.
Great. This is a good question, is what does the screen look like if the user gets a call from someone that is not part of their contacts? And I'm curious about this because I think I get 5 or 6 of these calls a day.
Okay, I think maybe this is a good time for Nerman to introduce the portal, because that'll answer some of these questions.
Oh, great. And we'll get back to the rest of the questions.
Yeah, it'll break it up, and it'll also show the users how the caregivers manage the phone.
Okay, so as we mentioned previously, correct, the key for this product is actually simplicity on the user side, but obviously to create this product, and especially with all the features that are supported with a very powerful caregiver portal and backend, that's where the complexity is. And when we introduced this product, we took an MVP approach and made sure that we launch the product and have then the capability over time to add new additional features, options, to make some of the features actually optional, because what we recognized even during the product development phase, as well as during testing, when we are talking about users with Alzheimer's, with dementia, it is extremely individual, correct? So not only based on the stage that a certain person is in, but even, someone, let's say early stage, it could differ significantly from user to user, from person to person. In addition to that, we have sometimes users who have not used the touch screen in the past, correct? So we have the challenge of dementia, as well as the fact that they were using only a home phone, or like the old-fashioned cell phone. So we are trying to make it user-friendly to accomplish all of that, and we were getting some great feedback, correct, from caregivers who were saying, it's like, hey, my dad never used a phone with a touch screen, but he was perfectly fine with your phone after 1 day, and so on. So the very powerful tool is actually what we call the caregiver portal. The caregiver allows, the administrator or caregiver, whoever the person is that is taking care of it, to manage all aspects of the RAZ Memory Cell Phone. The portal is available online, and you can log into the portal using a simple browser. Once you log in, you will see actually a wide range of information, as well as options to manage features. So on the very top, you will see actually information about the phone status. What is the remaining battery power? What is the signal strength? What type of network is the phone on? So as an example, I'm trying to call my grandma, I'm not able to reach her. I can log into the portal and see that the battery was extremely low, correct? So the likelihood is there that the battery actually got depleted and that the phone is off, as well as checking on the signal strength. So as you can see here, there is some basic information about the caregiver, as well as about the memory cell phone user. But we are moving now to the most important features of the phone and options, and that's actually managing the contacts. So all the contacts that you have seen on the home screen, on this one and single screen, all the contacts are managed remotely. And the caregiver can very easily add or remove contacts. So let's say I will select this contact. I would like to change the phone number there, and instead of this image, I would like simply to use an avatar. I can use an icon. I will save that change, and off it goes. And the same process is also with adding any new contacts, or let's say removing contacts. I can very simple, delete this contact, and it is gone. Once that has been accomplished, adding, changing contacts and so on, the changes can be saved. And once they are saved, we are sending the changes to the phone, and literally seconds later, between 1 and 3 seconds, these changes will be reflected on the phone. By default, there are 6 contacts on the home screen, and this can be extended for up to 24 contacts. If users have more than 6 contacts on the home screen, they will be seeing the top 6 contacts, and then they can actually swipe down and move to the next 6. If there is no activity for a certain period of time, it will revert automatically to the top 6 contacts. So there is a lot of flexibility for the contacts, and we have also received feedback from users that they will also be rearranging the sequence, they will be changing the images or icons or the name. So whatever works the best for the user. The name can be displayed on the phone, but it's not a must. It can be purely an image or icon. So there is a lot of flexibility for the user. I will just go back to one thing, since we were talking about the changes in contacts that will be reflected on the phone. Although the phone supports calls only, the requirement for the wireless service, for the cellular service, is that the user, that service has a data plan as well. Because all of these changes, all of the information about the phone status and so on, all of that is actually using the data connection. So it is shared over the internet. So by setting up the contacts, it's very easy for the user to tap and hold and dial any of the contacts. But let's talk a little bit about incoming calls, correct? So, and all of us, I'm sure, are annoyed by all the robocalls, telemarketing calls, and some of them are really predatory in their character and are extremely challenging for senior and especially for people with dementia. So we have actually an option to activate the limitation of incoming calls. So with this option activated, only calls from contacts will actually be received and will ring on the phone. All other calls, all other incoming calls will be discarded. In addition to this, we introduced in November a very interesting feature that was literally based on the feedback from many caregivers. So we have a scenario where the memory cell phone user should be able to receive a call from someone, but should not be able to call that person. A great example is the doctor's office, correct? So yes, please, the doctor's office should be able to call the user, but the user should not have the doctor's office as one of the contacts, because they're running a risk of repetitive, unnecessary calls and so on. And at that time, we actually introduced what we called a whitelist. So this is a list of phone numbers that will not show up as contacts, but calls from these phone numbers to the memory cell phone will be allowed, even in case of the activated limitation of incoming calls. So an extremely popular feature. And in some cases, it's maybe also for family members that would like to talk to the user occasionally, but due to their lifestyle, they are not really available all the time to be called by the memory phone user. An additional option is also speaker. So the caregiver can activate this option through the portal remotely, and then all phone calls will be automatically on speaker. There is no need for the user to change anything about that. An additional option is also to control the background color. It can be dark or light. I think the samples that you have seen here is with a dark background. So that can be actually in a very friendly light gray as well. and can be changed at any time. Very interesting option, correct? We talked about early stage, advanced stages, individual differences. There are some users who will be actually inadvertently using the power button. So they will turn the phone off and they will forget to turn it on, or they did it, completely inadvertently, and they are not aware that the phone is turned off. So the caregiver through the portal can actually disable the power button. So when the user is pressing and holding the power button, nothing will happen. They are not able to turn the phone off. And as you can see, it is modular based on different categories of features, and all the features are also optional. A very nice feature that is also included permanently is actually the location tracking. So the caregiver at any time, they can actually see the last few locations of the user in case, or of the phone to be correct. Here we see only one location because this device didn't move too much today. It's all the time at the office. But if we had a user who would be moving throughout the area, the last 3 locations would be shown. So very, very nice tool, and it will show you also the date and time as well as the exact street address based on the GPS coordinates. So you can see here also the RAZ emergency service. And, we had several questions previously if the 911 calling can be disabled. Robert did explain our approach that we did not want to completely disable the ability to contact emergency service for various reasons. But at the same time, we did understand the challenge of, unnecessary, accidental, repetitive calls to 911 triggered by users. And we wanted to come up with a solution that will help everyone, correct? So on one side, we have even the 911 dispatchers as well as the emergency services. They need to handle such calls, regardless how unnecessary they are, how repetitive they are. And, we have received feedbacks from emergency services, especially here in our area. We had a great conference call with them that, such users are actually tying up unnecessarily resources. Is it the dispatchers? Is it literally, a police officer driving out for a welfare check, or firefighters and so on? So we wanted to handle that somehow in a much better way, and that's when we came up with the idea to introduce the RAZ emergency service. So this is an additional service that is not free. It must be purchased. It can be purchased as a monthly or annual subscription. And basically what will happen once this service is activated, the emergency button that is shown, you can see it here on the phone. So the standard configuration is emergency 911, and the calls will be routed to 911. With the emergency service, the 911 won't appear here anymore. The button will be there. And if the user presses the button, the call will be routed to a private emergency dispatch service. And that service will have additional information about the user. It is up to the caregiver what is the information that they would like to share. But they can share information about the user's medical condition. Do they live in a nursing home or on their own, and so on and so on. So many, many different things that is then available to the dispatcher. And in addition to that, automatically when the user places the emergency call, up to 3 contacts will be notified via text message and saying, John activated the emergency service. Would you like to cancel? And so on. So it could be a scenario where I'm saying, okay, grandpa is actually in the living room watching TV. He must have accidentally dialed it or inadvertently. You can cancel this. So that's a very important input for the for the private emergency service dispatcher, or I can also provide additional info. Yes, grandpa is having a heart attack, or I don't know, I'm not at that location. And then the dispatcher will be talking to the user and will be also involving a 911 dispatcher to make a determination what needs to be done. And we have there some very interesting examples to play, actually, how that is working out. But what is very, very interesting, we have seen our stats for the now almost 6 months since we introduced that service, that more than 90% of the calls were clearly unnecessary calls, and they have been prevented, correct? Such calls were not forwarded to 911. The private emergency service dispatcher did not involve 911 because either the emergency was canceled by one of the caregivers once they received the text message, or the user as such would say, oh, I'm sorry, I thought I was calling my son or my spouse, and so on. So it really reduces the pressure onto the 911 dispatchers and services. And of the remaining amount of calls, actually more than half were able to be handled in a way where none of the emergency services have been dispatched to the user's location, correct? So there was an interaction with the 911 dispatcher, but throughout the interaction, they figured out, okay, this is not an emergency. So we have actually only less than 2% where it was either a real emergency or the outcome was non-conclusive. So, the 911 dispatcher still decided to do a welfare check or something like that.
Great. Wow, this is great. You want to answer, address a few more questions, and then you could play us the recording that you had mentioned?
Yes, that would be great.
Yeah, we got a bunch of questions. I want to try to get through them. So Ada makes a comment that it's actually cheaper than most iPhones. So that I agree. And let's see, Pat mentions, is Medicaid or Medicare eligible with a doctor order? I think that's probably something that you guys can set your targets on, is to have this viewed as something that could be covered under Medicare. And with all the telemedicine that is going around, you might have a chance at that. But have you made any work in that area?
We've considered it, but at this point, we haven't gotten to the point where we've really devoted significant time into trying to make the device Medicare and Medicaid eligible. But it's definitely something that we want to look into seriously.
Great. Susan Felton is just confirming. So you're purchasing the phone for $300, and you have to purchase minutes with the provider, but your service is free. Is that correct? Like what you just sort of displayed is included in the price when you pay for the phone.
That's correct. The only thing that's additional is the RAZ emergency service, because we have to pay for the private dispatch service. That has a real cost to it.
Okay. Great. What
other than that, it is a phone and a lifetime license, so to say, for the portal and for all the features.
Okay, great. And how much is that that service, the emergency service?
The emergency service, the annual subscription is $79.99. The $20 activation fee is waived in that case, or there is also a monthly option which would be $7.99 with a $20 activation fee, and the activation fee is a one-time fee, obviously.
Okay, well that's so basically for under $100 a year, you can opt to have. So now that emergency button has sort of a gateway. It's like a Lifeline product.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes,
Okay.
which is since you mentioned the Lifeline product, it's just a fraction of the cost to the typical monthly or annual cost for medical alert products.
Okay. And then Penelope says, what is the actual size of the phone? Is it, are you using a specific brand for your phone?
Yeah. So the Verizon version is actually a Motorola phone. I believe it's about 6.3 inches. The what I call the GSM version, which works with AT&T and T-Mobile, is manufactured by an American company called Blue Products, and it's about 6.5 inches.
Great. Oh, what is, someone says, please give the website for the Maryland Assistance Program for Low-Income People. Or the list is growing for these applications in other states. Very interesting. Is there a website? So it looks like at the bottom of your website, of the RAZ Mobility website, you had the links to those assistance programs. Yeah, there we go. Oh, it's Maryland Relay. Yeah. Oh, that's a great program. Yeah. And yeah, and chances are, if it's successful with Maryland Relay, there's all the other relay programs around the country. So to this question, I would say just scroll to the bottom of razmobility.com and you can get the links to those. Ken Silverstein says, if you have an existing cell phone, do you just transfer the number to the RAZ? And if it's a new service, who assigns the phone number?
It works just like a regular smartphone. So if you move from one smartphone to another, you can port your number, right? You can bring your number with you. It's no different with our phone. It's just hardware-wise, it's a regular smartphone.
And I could see in this situation where you have a loved one who's maybe developing a cognitive changes and can't use their old phone, where that's a situation where you could just replace it with this new phone on their current plan.
Exactly. You could just take, let's say they have an iPhone and it's becoming too hard for them, take the SIM card out of the iPhone and put it into the RAZ Memory Cell Phone and it'll work.
Okay, great.
Or another scenario that we have seen with many seniors, correct? They can actually port their home phone number as well to the wireless service, correct? And cut the cord on the home phone and save $50 to $60 a month.
Great. Let's see. Is there a record of the calls received? Meaning, if a robocall is not allowed to come through, will there be a record of those calls somewhere?
It will not be as a part of our caregiver portal, but like for any other regular calls, for any other regular wireless services. So let's say if I'm using Verizon, I can log into Verizon's My Account and see my call history.
Okay, but let's say that, like, let's say that, you know, a granddaughter, somebody gives, you know, grandma's phone number to a granddaughter and they forget to put her on the whitelist. What would happen when she dials that number? Would she just be, she wouldn't connect, or is there a message that would be provided?
The phone would be ringing, correct? So it would be, you know, ringing without an answer, or if there is a voicemail, it would run into a voicemail.
But just to be clear, it's ringing from the point of view of the caller. Obviously the user's not going to hear the ring here.
Okay. And then I'm glad you brought up the voicemail, because I didn't think about that. Mm-hmm. So the voicemail, a voicemail could be set up on this phone so that if my mom doesn't pick up the phone, it will ring to voicemail. But is there something to alert somebody that a voicemail has been left?
No. No. So the phone actually, you know, the idea is not to support voicemail features. We have seen that very early on during the trials that started becoming very, very confusing, and it's like leaving the one screen environment. So for that reason, the voicemail is not there. Now, I, as a caregiver, I can set it up and say, you know, this is Billy's phone. is currently not available, try later or something like that, but not in the regular scenario where the user would be accessing voicemail.
Okay. Are there any accessories besides the charging puck available?
Yes.
Yes, excellent question.
So there is a protective case. It's sort of a standard protective case that comes with it, which is $19.
And we strongly recommend it.
Yes. And if you buy the phone from the Alzheimer store, it comes standard with the phone. And we have a pouch. You could see this pouch, which some people buy. There's quite a few users that use it. You could clip it on. There's a little clip in the back. You clip it on to a belt, and they can walk around with it in the pouch. And you could even get a lanyard, or those seem to be a little less popular than the pouch, but you could have a lanyard around the neck, and the phone could hang from the lanyard.
And obviously the wireless charging set that actually includes a protective case as well. So,
right.
Okay. Do you offer phones in any languages other than English?
Right now, it's just English, although we're certainly considering other languages.
Okay. Let's see. Please give the websites for the state of Maryland. I'll make sure to send Maryland Relay out to everybody in the follow-up email. And is there a federal website we can assess from time to time for reimburse this? Okay. Yeah, for this question, I'll make sure to share the Maryland Relay site with everybody. And if you guys can stay in touch with us and let us know if you have any affordability options that pop up, I'll make sure to kind of get the word out about that. Yeah. Also, a few people asked questions about the testing data and any sort of results of the users. That would be helpful. If you want to share that with me, I can send it out to all the attendees.
What do you mean by testing data?
Just maybe it would be better. It would be better to refer to it as testimonials or user experience type.
Sure.
Let's see. Joan Green asks, who answers the private emergency service? How detailed can potential responses be? Would any advice be given on how to help the caller if family provides scenarios in advance to guide the response? Is the caller able to provide any medical advice? Okay, so this would be sort of, I guess, if the emergency service received a call from Cindy, then I guess, is there an ability where a screen could pop up so that the caller would know that, Cindy likes to sort of press that emergency button at 3 a.m. every morning?
So the caregiver can go into the portal and put in virtually any information they want into the portal, and the emergency dispatch agent will see that information. So we strongly urge the caregivers to put in as much information as they think would be helpful. For example, they could put in the address for the nursing home so that the dispatcher knows exactly where they live and what suite they live in. They could put in some basic medical information and what to do if they're anxious, that sort of thing. So it's up to the caregiver to put in whatever they feel is helpful. I also think this might be a good time to play the recording of a live call. Do you think this would be a good time, Steve?
Yeah, because it's 1 o'clock. Yeah, so yeah, let's play that, and then we can wind down with a few final questions.
Perfect.
Yeah. There are, and for about that information, what Robert mentioned, that we really encourage caregivers, plug in all the info that you have, and that info is actually shared in real time at the time of the emergency call with the private emergency dispatch service, correct? So it pops up to the dispatcher. If it was updated yesterday or something like that, it will be always up to date. Before I play the RAZ emergency service call, let me just play so that we are not holding the phone into the camera here. I will just play a very quick, a very short overview video of the phone so that you can see also a little bit of the phone in action.
Welcome to the RAZ Memory Cell Phone tutorial from RAZ Mobility. I am the accessibility specialist, Jerry, and I will be guiding you through this tutorial. Let's get started. Hey there, would like to take a moment to talk to you about a new cell phone on the market now called the RAZ Memory Cell Phone. The RAZ Memory Cell Phone is an easy-to-use, one-touch dial phone for seniors with memory loss or intellectual disabilities. It was developed to support specific requirements and offers simplicity, flexibility, quick implementation, and user adoption. The RAZ Memory Cell Phone ensures that individuals with dementia or intellectual disabilities stay in contact with their loved ones, whether they are at home or away from home. Up to 6 contacts are displayed as photos with names underneath. A single press and hold of a photo will initiate a call. The phone also offers a 911 emergency dial button as well. The large 6.3-inch display never times out. It is always on and ready to use. If desired, incoming calls can be limited to those that are contacts only, preventing unwanted calls, such as predatory robocalls. Loved ones or caregivers can easily manage contacts, photos, and phone numbers through a very easy-to-use online portal. The portal also offers GPS tracking and location information.
So I just wanted you to see the phone in action with an in-call screen. And I think there was also a question: what happens if there is an incoming call from from a phone number that's not a contact? So rather than showing the contact's name, it will show unknown, because it is unknown who the caller is. So going back to the RAZ emergency service, I will play, actually it is one call, but you know, it's 3 separate recordings that I will play in succession, as we have removed some longer parts to keep it as short as possible. And it will give you an idea, actually. So we have a user who called the emergency service, but then they dropped the call. So the private emergency dispatcher, he actually called back the user to inquire if there is an emergency or what kind of assistance is needed.
Okay. County Sheriff's Office 911 Center, how may I help you?
Yes, ma'am. I am with Moonlight Security. I have a subscriber of ours that has set off the panic alarm from his cell phone application that we monitor, and I cannot get him to answer. Should we dispatch you guys out to check it?
Yeah, what's the address?
It looks like he is at 350 Parish Street. And the gentleman we monitor for, this is an alert for a subscriber with dementia.
Okay.
And I have not been able to get in touch with him to verify that he is actually okay to us.
Okay. Do you know where he lives?
Unfortunately, the notes in the account say resides in nursing home, sometimes confused or difficult to understand.
So that's why I asked, because that address you're giving us is both for our Thompson Hospital and a continuing care center.
It is. Okay, yeah. Unfortunately, I don't know why they wouldn't put the name of the nursing home in that information, but they have not. And they give these subscribers, it's called the RAZ, R-A-Z Memory Cell Phone. When they open it, it immediately calls us and we get their location. I've tried to call the gentleman and he's just not answering. But is the name of the nursing home FF Thompson Foundation?
FF Thompson Hospital Continuing Care Center.
Okay, yeah, because we get a live location map, which does help a lot, and so it does look like he is right there beside the hospital in that facility.
So I'm gonna call over to that facility and see if he's there. If somebody will check on him. If we don't have any luck finding him that way, you want to give me your the reference information you have?
Yes, ma'am. The website is SendPolice, SendPolice.com. And when you get there, it's going to ask for the case number that you're looking for. This one is 6, W is in whiskey, F is in Frank, M is in Mary, J is in John.
Okay.
Let's see. Hold on just one moment. It looks like his daughter is sending me a message. Okay. My dad is still getting used to the phone. He lives in a nursing home. Should not need to call 911 or emergency for letting me know. Okay. Let me see if she wants me to cancel. Hold on just one moment. Yeah, this is a really good thing for them, and it does list a couple emergency contacts, and they're able to text with me as well to let us know if we need to to cancel. Give me I'm just waiting to see what she tells me. We don't want to bother you guys if it's not needed. We can actually cancel. We spoke to the daughter, Karen, who did advise we could cancel.
Okay.
So as you could hear, correct, it's a great example. Yes, it was a 2-minute call, but there was no dispatch for a welfare check or anything like that. And at the same time, we made sure that the user is actually fine, that it's not a real emergency. So that's just a quick illustration how the private emergency service works.
Great. No, that was a good example. Okay. Let me, we're past 1 o'clock, but if you don't mind just hanging on, I'll just run through these final questions. And then for those that have to drop off the call, I'll be sending a recording out. Penelope says, did you say these phones can come unlocked so you could choose your provider like Consumer Cellular?
That's correct.
Okay. And then, does the emergency support service have staff who speak other languages? So if somebody called and they started speaking Spanish, would there be a way to address that?
They do have Spanish speakers, but I don't think that there's service level for Spanish, that they are committed to have a Spanish speaker available all the time. And I know that they are, expanding. It is a very popular service. So I would imagine at some time it would be permanently available.
Okay, great. Yeah, this is not a, just more of a language thing. As one of the attendees says, the speaker spoke of users being a sweet spot, a narrow definition of the users. Just a lot of us switching from business talk to elder talk can oftentimes be challenging, and clearly you guys are doing something to try to help people here. Shelly Saplin says, is there a camera so the user can see the person they are talking to, or vice versa?
At the moment, it's only voice. We are looking into introducing video in the future. We'll look at that seriously, but it's not currently available.
Right, and obviously that would be very easy given that you're using any smartphone
right
down the road. Acom says, it's a great resource, but most of the seniors I serve always want free resources, so that is a challenge for us as social workers. Both the clients and caregivers always want free stuff. Yeah, that's the story of all of our lives in senior living, but it's good to know that programs like Maryland Relay are bringing this around. And I think also, for a user group, is, like we said earlier, somebody who has a phone, has been using a phone, but begins to have cognitive issues. This could be an excellent resource to enable them still to use their phone independently, even though they've got other challenges.
Exactly.
How does the emergency service call show up on the phone? Does it say 911 callback or emergency service? I guess, so let's say that somebody called emergency and then they dropped it. I'm assuming that's what that question is related to.
Yeah, it is emergency.
Okay, all right. And if they do call 911 call centers, are they made aware of what RAZ phone is? Yeah, you could hear on that call where the operator at the emergency platform was referencing RAZ, and that it's many of the users have memory impairment. So I think that addresses that question. I know there were some questions. I'm just scanning really quickly in chat. Let's see. But I think we covered almost everything. So folks, thank you for hanging in there past the hour. And I'm going to share your contact information with the audience so that they can follow up with you with additional questions, in addition to the recording and links to your website.
Great. Thanks so much, everybody, for listening. And Steve, thank you very much for organizing this and inviting us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, I really commend you on trying to do something to serve a very vulnerable part of the population. And I think you guys, admittedly, this phone is not going to be for everybody. But it could be a solution for people that are having difficulty with traditional phones and are getting frustrated. And it's a way to connect families, especially in this era where it's difficult for us to make those face-to-face visits.
Yes, that's the purpose, really, just to keep people connected who otherwise would not be connected.
Yep. So, all right, great. We'll be talking to you soon.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.